So we'll start with a meditation, guided meditation.
Yes, that's correct.
So taking up a sitting position, reasonably comfortable. And to do this, we check in with the body first to be able to experience what comfort is in the body. And also just checking in with the condition of the body. If you notice the body is tense, and it's helpful to try and relax a little bit. If you notice the body is tired or fatigued, you may have to adjust your posture to give the arising of more energy. And then once the posture seems to be reasonably comfortable, you can bring our attention to the sensation of natural breathing at the nostrils or the abdomen, wherever it's most convenient for you. And most important, that we're able to become aware of it reasonably obviously. Sometimes taking a few deep breaths can be helpful, but we just allow the breath to return to a natural rhythm. So we're attending to the breathing. You can also try to observe that the condition of mind is as we do that. For example, if the mind is reasonably clear and alert, or seems to be a little bit dull and sleepy, again, we may have to adjust our approach. If the mind is a bit dull, we try and give more attention to the beginning and the end of the breathing process, for example. Noticing how busy or quiet the mind is. Sometimes we just have to allow the busy thoughts to settle. Don't give them any special attention. We're aware of them, but do not give them any special attention. The main focus for attention is the breathing. The busy thoughts are just in the background. Noticing how the mind connects with the breathing. Is it something which is very obvious to us? Can we follow it with some continuity? Or do we notice the mind drifting off? We have to put a bit of effort into it. Again, we're just observing these conditions. There's no right or wrong, good or bad. Just observing the conditions we have to work with at this time. Trying to find, you could say, skillful means to maintain the exercise as best we can. But again, we can learn in the process, learning to understand the body and mind in the process, going through its various changes. The breathing process seems to be fairly clear. Maybe try to give a special attention to the arising and the passing of the breath. Breath is flowing into the body. The breath is passing out of the body. Maybe you notice some thoughts arising. Just try and be aware of the thoughts arising and passing away. We don't need to sort them out. We don't need to explain them. We don't need to do anything with them. Just observe the arising and the passing of these mental processes. They come and they go, and we can be the observer of them, the one who knows them. If you find yourself getting caught in them, just back to the breathing again, back to the ever-present breathing. So bring attention back to the body sitting here once again. Again, trying to tune into the sensations that make up our experience of body, just as they are at this time. And maybe noticing if there's any change in the body. The body's more relaxed. The body's more tense. Just checking in with the conditions as they are. And sometimes we also know why it happens or how it happens. But we learn this from the experience, the direct experience of sensation. Let the body talk to you rather than try to figure it out with our thinking. And then you can relax your posture and open your eyes.
Thank you, Lumpur. May we now request for Dhamma talk? Yes, Cheryl. Cheryl, can't hear you. Cheryl, take off your headphones. Can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can.
Okay, all right. So I'll request for the Dhamma talk right now. Jaloka Dipadi Sahampati Tatan Jalian Jivarang Ayajata Santi Tasata Paraja Kajatika Dese Tutamang Anukampimang Pajang.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Bhutang dhammang sanghang namasami. So the talk is about half an hour or so.
Yes, Lumpur, as
Yeah.
long as you wish.
Well, I don't think anybody has all. I mean, I don't have all night anyway. But leave time for questions before you get too tired. So the main theme which I've been emphasizing recently is that we should try to keep the main purpose of the Buddhist teachings in our minds as much as possible. And of course, we all know that there is various ways we can define the purpose of the Buddhist teachings. But I think first of all, it should be something which is meaningful to you, that you can put into practice regularly, but also something which is in harmony with what the real purpose of the Buddhist teaching is. So at the present time, I find it helpful to reflect that the purpose of the Buddhist teachings is the realization of selflessness. Because, I mean, I see this that we can practice this. I would say we can practice this in many different ways throughout our everyday life. Sometimes if we become too idealistic, we say, oh, the purpose of the Buddhist teachings is the realization of Nibbana. I know some people, as soon as they hear that word, they immediately think it's impossible. Doesn't have much meaning for them. It's just seems to be irrelevant or even too mysterious for them, perhaps. And there's various translations of the word Nibbana, and sometimes they are a little bit mysterious or a bit misleading even. But I would say ultimately, Nibbana is selflessness. And we can realize that, of course, in our everyday practice, so that maybe, if we keep up with the practice, it begins to becomes a bit more meaningful to us. And most of us, don't have that much time to devote to, you say, the real formal practice, spending many hours in meditation, for example, but we do spend time, in everyday life, talking with people, interacting with people. So we can, if we think about the purpose as selflessness, then we turn it around and try to practice this, try to speak from a place of selflessness rather than selfishness. Many people, in their conversations, it's merely conversations about, I don't know, I shouldn't judge anybody, but I mean, most people, there is a lot of self in it. There's kind of a one-upmanship, and somebody trying to prove that they're more intelligent than somebody else, or they're more clever or something. But if we remember that the purpose of the Buddhist teachings is selflessness, well, it maybe gives us a different perspective then. Rather than trying to impose ourselves on other people, we're trying to, be more selfless. We listen to them, for example. A selfless person is somebody who listens more than tries to tell somebody else what to do. So, I mean, this is ways that we can practice, I think, in everyday life. And, there's many different ways that we can implement this practice. Just for example, in the practice of the Eightfold Path, as morality, meditation, and wisdom. There's from the perspective of morality, for example, you can say that it takes quite a bit of some degree of selflessness to practice morality. We have our own, natural desires to I wouldn't say greed, but we have to reach out for things to satisfy ourselves. So we have, it's quite natural. But if you recognize that, the point of this is selflessness, it's not about just pleasing me. I'm not in this world to have the world please me, but to realize selflessness. So we can kind of postpone, or we can at least temper our, potential greed, and even turn it around. We could even turn it around to generosity. That's the opposite of selfishness, isn't it? We practice generosity, selflessness. And even some people, they try to practice generosity, maybe they have a good intention to practice generosity, but behind it there still is certain selfishness. I'm being generous because I want to get to heaven, for example. That's not, I mean, it's still good that you're being generous, that you're being, you're offering things, you're being generous, but there's a little bit of selfishness in there too, isn't there? So it's a little bit clouded. It's not quite pure generosity. It's not pure giving, not pure selflessness. We have in English, we have the phrase, selfless generosity, selfless giving. But, I mean, maybe it's too high an ideal to practice all the time. But if we recognize the purpose of generosity is to surrender, give up the things we normally take to be ourself, which support ourself. Yeah, we can see that as a way of giving up of ourself, giving up of our possessions, giving up of our time, etc. So we can see it in a different way, perhaps, hopefully more in tune with the Buddhist teachings. And the same with meditation practice. I mean, if we pursue the practice of samadhi or deep concentration, people can experience moments of selflessness when their own sense of self gets lessened, even sometimes disappears. They're just breathing. Sometimes there's no breather, even just breathing. That's an experience of selflessness. For most people, it can only be, temporary, but at least you realize that it is possible. It is possible to reach these states of selflessness. It's not so impossible. Of course, if you think, I'm trying to be selfless. Well, oops, did it again, back to selfishness again. I'm meditating to be selfless. But the experience itself, you notice that if you're actually developing the breathing, you have to actually step outside of yourself in a way. Put down your thoughts, put down your feeling of a body, your sensation of a body, to experience the breath itself directly. Just breathing, just breathing. And sometimes it happens that, rather than think about it, we just do it. And sometimes the experience arises. Just breathing, no breather. Of course, for most people, it doesn't last too long because as soon as they experience just the breathing, they, oh, look, I'm doing it right. I'm meditating properly. I realized, selflessness. Oops, self is back again. So, it's right in the background. It's as the Buddha said, it's it's one of the anusaya, one of the underlying tendencies. So one of the I say it's one of the latent dispositions. It's right there all the time. Mana or conceit. Yeah. But if we recognize that it's only a temporary thing, it's artificial. The sense of self is an artificial thing. It's not the ultimate reality. Then we can allow it to happen, rather than think perhaps we're going a bit funny or something. Years ago, when I was in Britain, somebody came to me and they asked me this experience they had. One day they were walking in the garden, and it was one of those beautiful spring days, I guess, in England, with the sun finally shining. And she was so peaceful. She walked around the garden, and suddenly everything was just so colorful. Everything was alive and colorful. And she walked around in the state, and she realized that she just forgot about herself. All her worries, all her problems were gone. Just a beautiful garden. For 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. He didn't say how long, but she had this experience. And then when it kind of evaporated, wonder what happened. Was I going crazy or something? What happened? And she had nobody to talk to, nobody to explain this to her. So when she asked me about it, I said, "Oh yeah, it's just a state of concentration, a state of collectedness. Where you can be collected in the beautiful environment you're in, and you forget yourself momentarily. And then I said, and I also kind of, well, maybe a bit facetiously said, "Oh, it's one of those deep states of concentration which to Buddhists happen all the time, she said, "What? All the time?" Well, maybe not all the time, but sometimes, But I said, perfectly normal, perfectly normal, So when she could see it in that context, then it was a very positive thing. But when she recognized that it was an abnormal state of mind, an altered state of consciousness, she was quite worried that maybe she was going a bit funny or something. But anyway, if we understand it in the right context, that it is, an experience of selflessness, even though it is only temporary, then it's very positive, and it's something which we can encourage, we can enjoy, we can benefit from. And the same with wisdom. I mean, the experience of wisdom is to realize, of course, realize in the depth of one's being that, ultimately the truth, one of the characteristics of existence is anatta, no permanent self. And this is something which is, if we experience it at a very deep level, we have the profound realization of it with us all the time. We live our life from that point of view. And, it's something which we can work at, and it becomes something which is our experience. And then we recognize the truth of it, the benefit of it. So we recognize that, something like the purpose of the Buddhist teaching is the realization of selflessness. Perhaps we can practice it in all different forms. The second thing I emphasize is that, of course, that to do this, we have to have really a comprehensive understanding of the Buddhist teachings too. just like, for example, the Sila Samadhi Panya explanation of the Eightfold Path. There's some people who, they're quite good at maybe samadhi. They emphasize, oh yeah, samadhi is very good. I like samadhi. Yeah, but maybe they aren't so gifted at developing wisdom or insight. So their practice is a little bit imbalanced. There are some people who are, I think quite a few Western people, they're very influenced by samadhi practice, or you can say concentration or collectedness, but maybe they aren't so keen on developing sila, morality. They don't see the value of that, but if we recognize that our practice has to be kind of comprehensive and well-rounded, we can put them all together. We can practice, you can practice samadhi, if you like, by developing sila. If one does practice generosity, one is able to practice metta rather than anger and aversion, one is able to practice clarity of mind rather than delusion, then it is closer to the experience of selflessness, very close to it. If we don't recognize that, then it's like we do some of the practice, maybe even can be quite gifted at it. Some people are very good at samadhi, but if their everyday life is not in harmony with it, it's like taking 2 steps forward and 1 back again. They practice samadhi, then they come out of it, and then they're they get more confusion and they get more anger, and sometimes it can be quite frustrating when your samadhi disappears. Some people they practice in a special condition. Remember when I first learned meditation practice in Sri Lanka, and it was a meditation center, so it was very, very specialized, and I realized it was like a very unique environment. And then after my month of practice, teacher said, "Okay, you practice here for a month. You can leave now." Then one day I found myself out on the street, trying to find a hotel to stay in, trying to find something to eat, and I was really confused. It went from one extreme of peacefulness and tranquility to confusion and doubt and even fear and worry, and just like that. And I didn't have any understanding of the deeper understanding of the Buddhist teachings in a comprehensive way. So I didn't know about how to practice this, how to keep this going in everyday life. Then I returned to university in Canada, and it was even more confusing because here I am, studying all for 5-6 hours a day, and then trying to meditate in the evening. I couldn't turn my head off, couldn't turn the thoughts off. So it was even more confusing. And the only way I knew how to develop calmness of mind or tranquility or concentration was in the meditation center. So all I could do was just plan to go to Thailand to meditate, take a year out from my studies and do an intensive meditation course in Thailand. I didn't know how to practice in my own ordinary life. And that's when I went to Thailand, it was again, I was trying to find the right environment to support the samadhi. And in a monastery, there is the opportunity to live a very peaceful life, not a lot of talking, no television or radio, and and I couldn't speak Thai, so I couldn't speak to anybody anyway. so just from the sensory deprivation, my mind got quite peaceful. But when things came up, when I had to talk to people, I got very confused again. It wasn't until I met Ajahn Chah who emphasized the importance of everyday practice, trying to be more mindful and collected, even when you're talking. The first time I heard about that, I thought that, samadhi was not talking. One way you can get samadhi is not to talk and not to socialize or communicate. But he was saying, no, try and be more mindful, more collected when you're talking, when you're working, when you're eating, all these activities we do every single day. rather than, rush away to my little hut, not talk to anybody, and then sit there and huff and puff and try and get samadhi. Or quickly eat the meal very quickly and get back to my hut so I can meditate again. I said, no, if you like, I was doing that at first when I went to his monastery, but then we have activity, we have some chores to do in the daytime. So they were very distracting. One of them was hauling water out of the well. And it was very, very tiring. And we had to do it in a group together, many of us. Somebody had to pull the water up, somebody had to pour it into the buckets, we had to carry it to different places. So it's very disturbing for me anyway, disturbing of my samadhi. But then one day I decided, okay, I'm living in Ajahn Chah's monastery, I should practice maybe what he said. So the bell rang for the work period. So I went out there, tried to be mindful, tried to be collected, went through the chores, carried the water back and forth, and back to my hut again. And the mind was peaceful. Oh, gee, no, it works. Before I went to the work period, and then I was grumbling all the time. This is not meditation. It's disturbing meditation. This doesn't work. Go back to my hut, and for the next half hour, my mind still kept grumbling all the time. Blah 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 blah. Not working. Doesn't work. But then being mindful to the work period, trying to be mindful anyway. Then going back to my kutiya to sit, the mind was still peaceful. Aha. Ajahn Chah has some really wise things to say about this kind of activity. So, of course, the same quality of attention, of mindfulness maybe can't be sustained through activities, but if we do, we can maintain a certain level and easily key back into calmness of mind again. It's never very far away from us. And actually, the second part of it is that we can learn many, many things about ourselves. Like, for example, we can learn about that grumbling self. It's there too. Where does it come from? Who's grumbling? Here we are. This is the here and now. This is what's happening right now. Why are you going on about it shouldn't be this way, it shouldn't be that way, it shouldn't be the other way? Why do that? Why disturb your mind? Just be here now, and then when it's time to change, you change. Pick it up, put it down. Pick it up, put it down. No problem. Most of us pick things up and we don't put them down. Put them down physically, but mentally we still go on with them. We still carry them. It's like Ajahn Chah's, he gave this very poignant simile of the man carrying a heavy burden, carrying this rock around. People ask him, why are you carrying that rock around? Because I can't live without it. It is part of me. Finally got so heavy, he put it down and said, oh, gee, I'm a new person. I'm free. I'm free of the rock. We think we need these things, but because it is part of ourself. I'm the one who doesn't like this, doesn't like that, doesn't like the other, but put it down and what a relief. Be really free of it then, free of the grumbling self, free of the complaining self. Huh? Doesn't that sound hopeful? another form of selflessness. Leave behind your grumbling self. And you can do yourself a great favor then too when you do that. Do the rest of the world a favor too. You do that. So when we try to put this teaching into practice, we find that we can, as Ajahn Chah says, we can practice everywhere, anytime. We don't need special conditions. Okay, maybe sometimes it could be helpful to have some special conditions, extra experience of calm or support, but not to depend upon it. If we can try to extend that experience of calm we have in special environment, try to extend that beyond this particular condition to wider conditions. The calm is in your own mind. It's not outside. Outside conditions maybe can support it to a certain degree, but still in your own mind. That's where the real important part of it is in the mind. So, And you can live your life peacefully, or you can be dragged into things. You know, it's up to us to do this practice and find out the result for ourselves. You know, so if we, you know, each person, I guess, has their own way to define what the purpose of the Buddhist teachings is. Some people might say it is wisdom, it is tranquility, it is being an upright moral person. Yeah, but the Buddha was pointing at, you know, the whole being, the whole person, being well-rounded, somebody who lives their life, you know, with peacefulness, with wisdom, you know, and then if they do that, then they are a moral person. They're a moral person. They are a calm person. They are a wise person. It becomes part of their way of being then, and rather than something we have to live up to or try to attain, because something which is part of our actual being then. And then we begin to recognize that it is something which is attainable. So the Buddhist teaching, while it has, in one sense, it's kind of idealistic, it's a very, very high standard. I mean, the Buddha had a very exceptionally high standard of moral living, high standard of samadhi, and he was one of the wisest people in the world, whoever lived in the world, you know. But if we put his teaching to practice, we can get some taste of that ourselves. Maybe we won't be Buddhas, perhaps, but we will be somebody who is, you can say, following in the footsteps of the Buddha. We're following in his footsteps, being just, you know, following his example, trying to live that way as best we can for ourselves and for the benefit of the world too. So hopefully you'll be able to recognize the value of this, and maybe, hopefully, ideally, be able to put it into practice. And then we see the results for ourselves. So maybe be a benefit to ourselves and to the world around us too. So I leave that for your contemplation today.
Handamayang Dhammakataya Sadhu Karang Dadamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
Thank you so much, Lumpur. Thank you for the talk on the selflessness. We have some time for questions and answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we welcome anyone here who's got a question, a reflection, or a comment to share with Lumpur. I will invite you to click on the raise hand button or to type in the chat box. And yeah, we invite you to make a comment or ask a question to Lumpur. So, anyone here who's got a question?
This is the very advanced group, huh?
This is the best group? No,
very advanced. Yeah.
Oh, advanced.
They don't have any questions. They know everything already.
John has a question, is it? Okay. Well, Lai-san has a question. Allow me to please read out the question from Lai-san Lumpur. Is it normal to not be a Buddhist but to follow the footsteps of the Buddha?
Certainly, yes. I mean, what does it mean to be a Buddhist? I mean, there are some people who, you know, I don't want to be impolite, but some people who call themselves Buddhist perhaps don't follow the Buddhist teachings as the Buddha would require, you know. But I mean, I would say the Buddha's teaching myself is a way of life. And it doesn't matter what you call yourself, it's how you live your life. That's the most important thing. Like there's many people nowadays. I read somewhere recently that you know, Buddhism has declined. The religion of Buddhism has declined in the world. What is it, 9% or something? Other religions have grown, but Buddhism has declined by 9% or something or other. You know, but I was telling somebody this, and they said, "Yeah, but I think more people have been influenced by Buddhism, though, because there's so many people now who have taken up meditation retreats, doing meditation practice. And I know a lot of people in the Western countries are reluctant to call themselves anything. Like they think it is the third biggest religion is the people who are non-aligned to any religion. People who they don't call themselves agnostic. They don't call themselves anything, but they still have spiritual aspirations.
Thank you for taking the question.
So, next question.
Next question. I think there is a gentleman by the name of John from Italy. John, I'm going to invite you to unmute yourself. Could you click on the unmute button? Yes.
Good morning, Ajahn Thiradhammo. This is John Angelori from Italy. I wanted to.
Hello, John.
I wanted to. Hey. I wanted to first of all say hello to you. It's been a while since I've seen you last, and hoping you're well.
Mm-hmm.
Since we last saw each other, I've had an opportunity to live now lay life for 35 or so years, married life for 30 years. And so what I'm finding is that when I'm at Santa Chitarama, and everybody from the lay people and of course all of my old friends there will be smiling and be supportive, and then when I come home, my wife is grumpy after work, and my son is grumpy because he's not getting enough. And Western culture is everyone angry because they're driving too fast and they have too many things to do. And so it seems like this would be perfect conditions for putting into practice what you talked about tonight. And yet, I guess I feel as the years go on, wow, am I in the wrong place? So I just want maybe to ask you some reflections on that.
Well, yeah. Well, in a way, I think lay life is a more intense practice because in a monastery we have so many supportive conditions. Like you say, lots of smiling people, and everybody's coming here to give us things, being very generous and keeping a high moral standard. So in ways we're kind of spoiled a little bit. But in lay life, of course, maybe don't have so many supportive conditions. So we just try the best we can. I mean, like there's certain things, about, dana, sila, bhavana, trying to keep those principles going the best we can. I mean, some people, it's a real struggle to find the time and the place to do their meditation practice, for example, just like that in the ordinary life. I mean, I remember when Ajahn Chah went to America, he was very impressed by many of the people he met because they set aside one room in their house for meditation practice. They had a meditation room in their house. And he thought, oh, well, I mean, that's really impressive that they should have that commitment to do their practice. For other people, maybe they have to be able to arrange their own time and practice, according to their conditions. With one of our Thai supporters, and she had to get up very, very early in the morning to do her meditation before her husband woke up because he wasn't very supportive. But and it was okay. It was a challenge, but I mean, it takes a lot more energy then. You have to develop your energy parami, perhaps your paramita, develop more energy, and a little of some degree of wisdom too, because sometimes, it can be very irritating if people aren't supporting you, especially your spouse or your family. So you have to be very careful. They don't get too selfish about your practice too. Huh? And we just have to, find it. Each one of us has to find our own way to practice within our own life conditions. I kind of chickened out in a way and went to the monastery, you see. I couldn't do it back at university where I was. So I went to the monastery, and I still, I still am a chicken, I guess. I stay here, I don't envy you your challenges, but
Mm.
but keep going, keep going. Don't despair. At least you have a monastery nearby you can check into once in a while, you know. That's more than some people have, you know. There's some people here, they come, they have to drive just to get to the monastery here. It's 2 hours from Sydney, you know. And then, so I mean, we're way out in the bush, so they have to drive quite a long way to get here for a quiet place. And now it's beginning of the Rains Retreat. We have about 5 people here who are staying for the Rains Retreat, 5 lay people. And so they, you know, some have taken a month off their work. You know, others have had to, you know, make it special arrangements to be able to come here even for a couple of weeks. Yeah. So I don't know. It's a great challenge. Look forward to increasing your wisdom and your energy, and hopefully some peace of mind too.
And hope to see you again soon out this way.
Yep. Maybe next year, Italy. Okay.
Be well, Ajahn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lampo, and thank you, John, for your question. So there are a couple of written questions here. My recommendation is for Fong Poramidi and Lai San. Suggest that you ask your question in person so that you could explain to Lampo what you mean. And if you wish to be invited to ask a question, could you please click on the raise hand button under the reactions, under the reactions button, and then I'll invite you to unmute to ask your question, because your question needs to be elaborated. Anyone's got a question? Raise hand. Lampo, there is someone who wants to know whether what BuddhaDhamma accepts female anagarikas.
Yes, we have some people staying here, some females visitors staying here. We have 6 houses for the lay people to stay in. There's multiple rooms. But I should mention that maybe the conditions here are pretty simple. You know, sometimes there's outdoor toilets. There's an outdoor shower. I mean, not out in nature, but I mean, a separate building we have for lay people to have their showers. And we have to move around the site. It's a very large site. So people walk up and down to the sala, which is about a 10 to 50-minute walk up to the sala for eating meditation and back down again in the dark. Although now we have the morning meditation in the eating hall, which has a nice stove in it, so it's not so cold. A wood stove.
Very austere, Lampo, very austere. It's for the brave ones.
Close to nature. Closer to nature than in Singapore, anyway.
Oh, definitely so. Definitely so. You must have a strong, healthy physical body like Lampo to do that.
Yeah. You got to keep using it too, you know.
Exactly. We have someone from Hawaii, Parani. Could you please click on the unmute button? Yes, great. Could you ask your question, please?
Namaskar, Luang Po. I'm dealing with a Buddhist that don't really practice Piya Waja. And when we work together for the non-profit organization, and when she did not do her part, she would got mad and said, "Oh, I don't want to volunteer. You asked me to do this," and then she went on very upsetting and used blame language. And I try to have samadhi and calm down and explain to her what she would like, other people to help her. And how would you recommend, any more that I can keep myself calm? I try very much to do that. And at the meeting, she went on and said, "Oh, I didn't not explain myself well. Even it's already in the written what the planning we want to go about." So I would like to hear your recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's always important to be able to, maintain your own peace of mind, rather than get drawn into people's stories and people's anxieties and emotions. So it's important to be able to, keep your centeredness, say, keep yourself either with the breathing or centered in your heart. In our monastery, I mean, while we have many supportive conditions, we also have, of course, a few challenges too. Sometimes there are difficult people, and the Buddha gave some very, very clear guidelines how to deal with difficult people. Like, for example, he told us that, if we want to respond to somebody, we should always respond with metta. Don't respond with anger. Better if you notice anger rising, don't speak. Don't. Especially, see, in the monastery, we were kind of stuck together. You see, we're all in one place. Same as, I guess, in your work condition too. We speak from anger, then it's going to have some repercussions later. And maybe you do more damage than it'll take more effort to undo than if you just remain quiet. Just being quiet, centered in yourself, keep breathing, make sure that your mind is reasonably calm before you speak, and then maybe you can see it from a different perspective. For a lot of people I notice who are angry, for example, they're angry because they're in pain. Pain hurts, and so they get really angry with it. It's very, very unpleasant. So if you can look at the pain behind it rather than the anger that they're throwing at you or throwing up, look, feel the pain behind it, then you can maybe approach them with more compassion, more metta, more compassion, and really speak to that pain then rather than to the anger. And then maybe they hear that because, there's something inside them knows that they're speaking from pain. And then when you respond to it, then they really receive it then. But if you start reacting to their anger, then they just get defensive. So better to be quiet, because it just make more confusion and more aversion in the world.
Yeah.
But it takes quite a challenge,
Thank you very much
because
so
it's easy
far.
to
Very
say.
helpful.
It's easy to say, but good luck. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, Long Po.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Parani.
Yeah.
Right. So Lampo, there's another person. I think Laisan, you're having trouble unmuting. Can you please unmute yourself now, Laisan? Yes.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Hi,
Yes.
Long Po. This is Laisan from Malaysia. I was the one who asked about because I'm very new to Dhamma learning. It's only 6 months into it, and sometimes when I was sharing my learning experience with my friends, sometimes I will tell them that I find Buddhism is actually more of the Buddha's teachings than a religion itself. Um, but sometimes when I think about it, I'm not sure whether I should actually quote this. My environment is a bit complicated, whereby I'm surrounded by the so-called Buddhists, but they are not really practicing the Buddha's teaching. Is all with the rites and rituals. I am the minority in my family. Even I'm the only one who practice the Theravada teachings. So I wanted to know whether sometimes what I told, when I share my experience with my friends, what I told them is appropriate or even correct.
Mm-hmm. Well,
That
it's very
the
important to
Buddhism
recognize,
is,
I would say, to recognize who you're talking to, because I try to put myself in the place of the people who are asking the question, how much can they understand? What are they really asking? And if you try to get too idealistic or too high-minded, perhaps it just misses them. What are they really after? So, it's helpful to be able to tune into them, I would say, then respond accordingly. And hopefully you'll be able to respond then more, from where they're at, say, from a place of wisdom rather than just ideals or something, and without dismissing them too. Recognizing that, there's in Thai, there's a phrase, all kinds of people, all kinds of people. So while people are, say, not practicing up to your standard, what you consider to be the standard the Buddha gave us, but they're still trying, and they're still practicing some degree of it. And maybe at certain times in the future, that'll be a good foundation. It'd be like their part, like we say, their parami, their accumulations will bear fruit. Like people practicing just the rituals too. Rituals have a place. They can provide a certain amount of calm in people's minds, a certain amount of centeredness. Then maybe they'll be able to see beyond that later too. That there's more to it. So it's not a matter of putting them down and criticizing them, but trying to lift them up. Trying to it's like a developmental process, I think, Buddhist teachings. Trying to lift us up to a higher level of consciousness, if you like. So I myself, I tend to put, so Western people tend to put the Buddhist teachings more in a psychological way. I don't talk a lot about a lot of the rituals and ceremonies so much, but put it in terms of the psychological benefits one has. If one can, for example, be more free of anger. I mean, it's if you're angry, you're actually secreting all these poisonous, toxic chemicals into your bloodstream, and it's can be very, very unhealthy, but rather than just bad karma, you see. But it depends again on who you're talking to.
Yeah, thank you, Luang Por. I find the Luang Por sharing of the tune into the right audience, and also it's more of the whichever ways that we practice, be it the rites and rituals or purely following the Buddha's teaching, is more of the seed planted in this life for the betterment of the next. So thank you, Luang Por, for that.
Thank you, Laisan. Luang Por, we have another person, Fong from Malaysia. Fong, can you please unmute yourself? Can you speak, Fong, please?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Luang Por, thank you so much for your teaching. Find it really useful. I'd like to know how do we keep going back to mindfulness as we go about our daily life? Because I find that, I do try to practice regular morning meditation, but it's like the moment you get out of meditation and you go about the daily life, it's kind of like, whoa, if lost it all, it's like so lost in the daily chores and all that, the mindfulness is gone. So is there a technique or some way where, during the day, we keep being reminded, hey, get back to your mindfulness, be mindful. How do we get into that mode of routinely being mindful as we go about our day-to-day life with our eyes wide open? Thank you, Luang Por.
Mm-hmm. One technique I find useful would be that, when you find yourself getting caught up with things, just stop. Take a deep breath. We have our breath with us all the time. If you can just take a few moments, stop and take a deep breath. And I told people, especially in Switzerland, where people are very, very busy, that if you look around in your daily life, you find there are moments to the day when you're not doing things. You have to wait for the train, you have to wait for a phone call, you have to wait for your friend. What do you do when you're waiting? Most people are worrying about something or thinking about the future. Just stop, sit down quietly, focus on your breathing, and then even for a few moments, it's like you collect yourself. You don't let yourself get so scattered. Rather than get up for meditation, go through your day and just forget yourself, scattered self, and then try and get back together in the evening again. But if you tune in every few moments or a few times a few times in an hour or so, then you don't lose yourself so long and so deeply. It's like recollecting yourself again and again. Another one is, a very simple one, is slow down. Okay, maybe it's sort of difficult when you're at work, but there are times when you take a break, slow down, stop, sit quietly, step aside. We have these old patterns we get stuck in, these these kind of habits we get stuck in. You have to do this, have to do that. But if you can just shift them now to a more calm, peaceful, collected habit, like just a few minutes every day, a few moments here and there, collecting it together. Like I told people in Switzerland, they try and get an hour meditation in a day, but they're very, very busy. But if you look around in your daily life, you find 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes here, put them all together. At the end of the day, you got your hour. Okay, it's not the same quality to it, not the same intensity to it, but it still has a benefit, maybe even a more benefit, because you learn to collect yourself at certain times in the day. And why did I lose it? Why am I getting caught up? I wonder why. Yes. So hopefully, if you do a few of these things, maybe, and like I say, and when you're walking somewhere, try and do some walking meditation. And you walk from your car to your office to your car, or your train or something. Try and do walking meditation rather than think about getting to work or getting home again. Collect yourself, steps, just walk one step at a time, one breath at a time. And then, you find you don't get so scattered, and you stay more collected through the course of the day, hopefully.
So I hope that's helpful, Phong.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you, Long Po.
Right. There's a friend here from the UK, Jonathan from the UK. He's got a question. Jonathan, could you unmute yourself?
Yes. Oh, thank you, Bita and Long Po. What a really, it's really, really good to hear the practicality. So I got a question that is about sometimes people feel trapped between two ways of thinking. So I'm of Chinese descent, but I was born and grew up in the UK. So I guess when you're with Ajahn Chah, how was it learning about a more, would you say, Eastern way of thinking, and then bringing it to Chittas and Harnham? And I guess when going to visiting the monasteries, we do meet a lot of Westerners who have come through a lot of trauma, maybe addiction, maybe childhood PTSD, looking for answers, and any sort of thoughts on your experiences with Ajahn Chah, and then coming to the UK on that, and did the Buddha even sort of have any awareness of these kind of seemingly Western things? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it was one way it was quite beneficial to live in a Buddhist country, for example, like Thailand, because it was so different. And when I began to learn the Thai language is based on the Buddhist language. So sometimes there were some of the phrases they used, like Ajahn Chah used to say very often, we'd be having some big plans about something, must go here, must do that. And he says, "My nair," means uncertain. Just stop you in your tracks. Think, oh yes, I have this plan, which I think I have to follow, I have to do. And he just reminds us, oh, uncertain. Say, oh yeah, thank you. Thanks for reminding me, because it actually is uncertain. Just an idea in your head, and it seems to be so definite in your head. But the reality is, when that idea meets reality, it's very uncertain what the result will be. So in a way, it was very helpful living in that country. But at a certain point, after I was there, maybe 8 or 9 years, I realized that I'm not Thai, actually. I'm still a Westerner. So there's some things I just didn't I couldn't really understand. I couldn't really, go along with. So I realized that, the challenge would be going back to the West. In a way, it was a bit of a challenge too, because I learned Buddhism in Thailand. So I saw everything from the Thai Buddhist perspective, and going to live in Chithurst, for example, in a Western country. Oh my goodness, how do we do things here? Instead of drinking this kind of very sweet coffee drink, we had tea instead, in England. And then we had to, it was like a real learning experience, how to practice, our forest tradition. I was there in the really early days in Chithurst, and most of the senior monks had been in Thailand together. So we were still talking sometimes in kind of half Thai, half English. There's some really funny words we used talking to each other, But it was a real challenge how to live this life, in a foreign country, in England, for example, how to live the Thai forest tradition. So sometimes we had to make these adjustments. We had to wear more clothes, for example. And then there was certain customs in England, for example. In Thailand, our tradition was to have a bare shoulder, you see, out of respect for the Buddha. Well, a bare shoulder in England is very improper, because a religious person shouldn't bear the flesh, you see. A priest, a vicar, he shouldn't bear any flesh. Because it's only the working class people who do that, you see. So one of the monks, he was able to sew. He could sew very well, so he sewed this jacket for us, you see. So we could wear that on top of our shoulder. So we put the robe on over our left shoulder, but we still have the robe off the right shoulder, but it's covered with this jacket, we call it, which conform with English, polite society. Sometimes it kind of had a little bit of a challenge for the Thai people. Why are you wearing a jacket? Because it's cold. It's hard to explain the English customs to people, but to say the weather is very cold here, so you have to cover our shoulder. Then there were other things about how to teach Buddhism to Western people too. That's why I mentioned previously that I usually explain the Buddhist teachings in a more psychological way, I realize, to Western people. Many people in the West, they don't have a lot of faith, easily have faith. They have to understand why they do it. Why do we wear these robes? Why do we shave our head? In Thailand, nobody asked us why we wear robes or shave our head. Nobody ever asked us that. But in the West, they ask us those things. You have to explain the theory behind it. And fortunately, I was in my early days in England, I was teaching the Vinaya to the monks, our monastic discipline. So I could explain it more practically. I realized that it had to be explained what the purpose was rather than what the form was exactly. What the purpose behind it was, which comes from the time of the Buddha, why we do this, why we have to have all our food offered to us, because one of the monks was suspected of stealing something. So the Buddha said, no, make sure that nobody accuses you of stealing. You have to have everything you're going to eat offered into your hands then. So it became a special ritual. And then the people in the West say, what? Help yourself. Say, sorry, we cannot do that because you may be mistaken for a thief. But sometimes, like for example, when I visit my mother, I don't get her to offer everything to me. I just said that whatever she puts on the table, that's offered to me, you see. A little controversial maybe, but I couldn't see my mother kind of, offering things to me and bowing 3 times, you see. So I think I compromised a little bit. It was still allowable, you see. As long as it was on the table, I'm still touching the table so she can put the food on the table, you see, rather than into my hands, you see. So sometimes if we know the purpose behind it, we can follow the principle. Maybe not the letter, but the principle. So we're still learning anyway. It's still a learning process. We're still learning as we go along, and sometimes we have to discuss things. We have these sangha meetings where you discuss how we're going to deal with this situation, that situation, and but it's part of the learning process, and hopefully we maintain the real core of the Buddhist teachings and the purpose behind it. It says in the Vinaya we should follow the spirit and the letter, you see. But sometimes it's very hard to follow the letter in a foreign country because things don't apply that way, in foreign cultures. Anyway, it's a learning process. And it helps to be flexible, but again, important we keep the core of it. We keep to the real purpose, the sole purpose of the Buddhist teachings, is liberation.
I hope that answers the
Lots to think about it.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Lampho, just one final question. I know that's all the time that we have, but just one final question from a lady here. Her name is Kay. Her question is, as I try to manage my attachment to my late husband's possessions, I note that when I'm ready to give his things away, I am desirous that his possessions be given away to people I trust or who hasn't been unfriendly towards me. People criticize me for expecting something in return and therefore not practicing properly. I think that the kind of criticism is rather harsh, and it just makes me feel that they have no compassion. For I am struggling to practice the Dhamma, and yet no one wants to give me any slack. Can Lampho please share some views? Do I deserve to be criticized? And how can I how can I go about managing this attachment towards my husband?
Well, I think you have to acknowledge that people have all different perspectives. They see things from all different points of view, not always our point of view. See? We have our own, limited perspective. We can say we have our own prejudices or preferences. That if the world lived up to my expectations, it would be perfect. But my expectations, my way of seeing things is only one narrow way of seeing things. So it's a matter of being able to become more tolerant and more patient with people. And again, there's people who are at different levels of, you can say, spiritual maturity or something, different degrees of wisdom. So, everybody has the basis, they're still fairly selfish, self-centered. See? If we acknowledge that, then hopefully we'll be more tolerant of people, be more patient with them, be more accepting of the variety of responses. And of course, being, having something like your own husband's possessions. I mean, there's still, you can say there's always going to be attachment to it, but it's a matter of trying to practice as much as we can about how to let go. And sometimes, letting go, it requires, looking at ourselves much deeper, because what part of us is holding on? One part of us, the kind of, you say the high-minded part says, let go. Another part says no. Inside, little child inside says no. I want it, I need it, But look at that child, have more compassion for them, have more sympathy for them, more understanding for them, and say, yes, part of me wants to let go, part of me wants to hang on. There's always for parts of me inside here. There's one being here. So the more that we're acknowledging of that, the more we can be hopefully more tolerant and more open-minded to it. Say, okay, yes, the child likes to hold on to things, yep. But hopefully it will grow up one day. Hopefully be able to let go too. And you try and just ease it out, ease that grasping, that holding on. Maybe you have to, contemplate sometimes. All these things are passing away. All these things are passing away. I don't own anything really. I'm just here temporarily. Don't own this body. I'm just using it temporarily, borrowing it, as it were. What the body comes from nature, it'll go back to nature. I, so-called, me, myself, is just borrowing it temporarily, and then, when it's time to go, well, okay, let somebody else borrow it then, if they want, or let nature, we return to nature again. We're going to recycle back to nature again. So it's somebody's benefiting from it, something's benefiting from it, and so hopefully we'll be able to have a different perspective, a wider perspective on what letting go really is. Sometimes it is actually the kind of, what do you say, the kind of they say in Thai there is something like a, it's like a release. It's a releasing. Bloy wang. It's a putting down and letting go of, releasing and putting down. Sometimes we just notice how burdensome it is to hold on to it. Okay, sometimes it just seems right. Put it down. That's enough. Let it go. Other times we have to be more reflective or contemplate. All these things are impermanent anyway. We're impermanent anyway. So why hold on to it? Go with the flow. Go with the flow.
Thank you so much, Luang Por. Okay, I hope that response is helpful for you. That's all the time that we have today. As you all have observed, what BuddhaDhamma, where Luang Por is at, is really in the bush area. And we're really very honored, very privileged to have the benefit of Luang Por's time during this Vassa, to spend this 90 minutes with us. So we're immensely grateful, Luang Por. And in closing, we'd like to invite Luang Por to lead us in the verses of sharing and aspiration, Luang Por.
Okay.
I'm just going to put the words up on screen, Luang Por.
Okay. So now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachment quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the goodness of all these, may the darkness and delusion be dispelled.
Thank you so much. I think we're all immensely grateful to you, Luang Por. Though we don't see you as often, but we hope to pay you a visit at Wat BuddhaDhamma pretty soon. If not, our path will cross somewhere in some monasteries. We wish you and the Sangha well, and the community well, and Wat BuddhaDhamma during this Vassa. May you be kept well, healthy, strong, and well supported. If conditions permit, some of us will go up to Sydney and offer our services to you. So, in closing, we'd like to now please, together as a global community, take leave from Luang Por by chanting the Arahant, paying homage to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Arahant Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Avivade. Swakado Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supadipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Once again, a lot of gratitude and appreciation to you, Luang Por. I know you had a bit of difficulties logging in, but you know, the 80 of us have stayed here
Yes,
with you for the last 90 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all the best.
See ya. Bye-bye.